going to be the best day of my life. And tomorrow, I'm going to wake up and say the same thing. Every day I wake up and say, today is the best day of my life. Because I know that no matter what the conditions of my life are, that each day is a precious opportunity to shine my light, to radiate love and compassion, and to spread joy and kindness. Several years ago, I set out on a spiritual path that awakened me to the grace, beauty, and symmetry of life. I became aware that the life force that was illuminating me was the same life force that illuminates all living things and beings. And the power behind that force was one thing and one thing only: the pure, unconditional love of the source, expanding into eternity. It's the power that ignites the creative spirit within us and all around us. And I knew then that I wanted to live in the light of love and to unleash my creative spirit. But there was something holding me back. There was something limiting me, and I knew exactly what it was. E-G-O, my ego. I knew it was the source of the limiting beliefs I had about myself. And so I said, game on. My creative spirit versus my ego mind. Overcoming the limitations of our ego is the biggest challenge of our lives. But it's what we're here to do, to rise up out of our egos so we can set our spirits free. And so I became determined. I was aware that the limiting beliefs I had about myself were coming from my past experiences. So over the course of the next 2 years, I created a process by which I could reflect on the most transformational experiences of my life, and I could heal them, and I could learn from them. I developed powerful ways to balance my ego and spirit with daily practices that helped me to transform them from limiting ones to much more empowering ones that expand in love rather than contract in fear. I discovered that I could wake up by awakening through reflection. And it's what inspired me to write this book, because I want us all to wake up. I want us all to be able to liberate our minds from the limiting beliefs that we have about ourselves, others, and the world around us. So how does this all work? To find out, we have to take a trip into the past. Growing up, my mother used to tell my sister and I, today is the first day of the rest of your life. And it always made me feel like each day was a fresh start, a brand new adventure just waiting to be explored. She also called me Susie Sunshine, and she told me I shined brightly like the sun. I'm sure you find that hard to believe. So each day I couldn't wait to head out and see what adventures lie ahead and to shine my light on the world around me. She also used to wake me up and say, you are the prettiest, smartest, and bravest girl in the whole wide world. I'm sure she told my sister the same thing. But I believed it, and as a child, I thought anything was possible. But then, as we all know, the naivete of childhood gives way to the harsher realities of life, and it starts the moment we set foot on the playground. When I started going to school, I quickly realized I wasn't the prettiest girl in the world. There were other girls much prettier than me. I wasn't the smartest either, and I wasn't even the bravest. So I started to question myself. I started to question my self-worth. And then I entered the daunting world of gym class and the not-so-enlightened concept of picking teams, whoever we have to thank for that ego-shattering idea. I was a scrawny kid, so naturally I got picked last for anything sports-related. And being underdeveloped didn't help me in the girls' locker room either. They used to call me the carpenter's wife, meaning flat as a board. True. That name gave way to Bubble Butt as I started to fill out. Mind you, I was still the carpenter's wife, but now baby got back. Who here can remember the names they were called growing up? All right, who wants to share them? Come on. Bongo lips. Oh my goodness. That is a tough one. Wow. I think we have someone in the back who has a great one. Captain Spaz. I never, that's my sister. I never knew that. Isn't that crazy? Captain Spaz. And it sounds so silly now, but 40 years later, I still remember these names. And they affect the way that we see ourselves as adults. Experiences like these are the root cause of the limiting beliefs that we have about ourselves. So what I would like you guys to do right now is to think of a limiting belief you have about yourself. I want you to just think, I am not enough. The first one that comes to mind is the one that needs to be healed the most. And then what I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to ask you to turn to your neighbor and share that thought. Don't be shy. By the end of this weekend, we're all going to know each other's intimate secrets. But remember, what happens at Lighten Up 2015 stays at Lighten Up 2015. So go ahead, turn to your neighbor and share, I am not enough. Okay. Okay, now just hold on to that thought as we move into the teenage years. All right? Awesome, thank you. Just hold on to that thought as we move into the teenage years, when our self-esteem and identity are seriously challenged. In high school, I wanted nothing more than to be a song leader. I didn't want to be a cheerleader. I wanted to be one of those song leaders who runs out onto the football field at halftime and waves the pom-poms around and performs a dance routine. I took dance lessons as a kid, so I thought I had a pretty good chance. So I practiced and I practiced and I practiced, and when the day came for tryouts and I heard my name being called, I ran out onto the gym floor and danced my little heart out. And then I just waited on the sidelines for my name to be called. Mary, Nancy, Tina, oh good, I like Tina, Joni, Cindy, Raylene, Kimmy. And then I heard, congratulations to all the girls who made the song leading team. And I just stood there stunned. I thought there must be something wrong. I didn't hear my name. And then it hit me. I'm not good enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not brave enough. I'm not worthy. And that was a transformational experience. So in a fog, I made my way out to the schoolyard, and my mother was standing there with a huge bouquet of roses. And I was so mad at her for lying to me all these years. I wasn't the prettiest or the smartest or the bravest. And you know what she said to me? She said, sweetie, what you don't know now is that there's something much bigger in store for you. This just wasn't meant to be. There's something much greater on the horizon. And you know what? She was right. Soon thereafter, I discovered that I could run like the wind. And so I tried out for track and field. And I made the team. And it wasn't long before my bedroom walls were covered with first place ribbons. So now, instead of saying I am not, I am saying I am. So what I'd like you guys to do right now is to close your eyes so you don't see me taking a drink of water. Just close your eyes and think about a time in your childhood When you felt like you weren't good enough. When you felt like you weren't smart enough, or brave enough, or attractive enough. When you felt like you weren't worthy. The one that comes to mind is the one that needs to be healed the most. And now what I want you to do is I want you to picture that child standing right in front of you right now. And I want you to say to that child, you are good enough. You are smart enough. You are attractive enough. You are strong enough. You are worthy. And then I want you to literally reach out and hug that child and say, I love you. I love you, and I thank you for persevering through all the challenges of childhood to become the amazing adult that I am today. Because today, I am amazing. Open your eyes. Now what I'd like you to do, remember that thought that you shared with your neighbor earlier? The one I told you to hold on to? Well, it's time to let it go. So now, instead of saying, I am not enough, turn to your neighbor and say the truth. I am enough. Doesn't that feel good?
Yes.
Yes. Don't ever let your ego tell you that you are anything less than perfect. Because you are all that and more. My mother was right all along. I am pretty. I am smart. I am brave. And I am worthy. And so are all of you. I am, I can, and I will. And it's our motto for this weekend, and we're just going to keep saying it until it resonates within the core of our being, until we really believe it in our hearts and in our souls. I am, I can, and I will. Repeat after me. I am, I can, and I will. Okay. So now we're going to move into adulthood and see what valuable lessons it has to teach us. Not yet. In college, I set my sights on the American dream by pursuing a degree in business, even though I had little or no interest in finances or accounting. It was the 80s, and everybody was getting a degree in business. The economy was booming, so like a robot, I followed along. After college, I continued my pursuit of the American dream by marrying well. True love wasn't nearly as important as success and status were, because now it was more important than ever to fulfill the American dream. Because I had been told by society that it was the key to true happiness. So I became engaged to a successful businessman. And while we were still engaged, he announced to me that we would be moving to New Jersey for his job promotion. As horrified as I was about the idea of moving to New Jersey, so far away from my family and friends, plus I heard it snowed there. But like a robot, I followed along, setting aside my own career path, setting aside my family's and friends just to follow his, because I wanted to be the perfect wife. And I hardly even questioned it. Well, there was a moment when I said, Single in Southern California or married in New Jersey? But I was committed. So we got married and moved to New Jersey and became the perfect image of success. Gotta love that 80s hairdo. And I got my first job in the corporate world in accounting. Don't let that smile fool you. But it wasn't long before I literally felt frozen. In a place that I didn't belong, living somebody else's dream. Because for me, the American dream had become a nightmare. The mean-spirited politics in the corporate world were brutal, and so was the weather. And to top it all off, my husband was never home. He was traveling to places like Australia and France, leaving me home alone in New Jersey to dig my way out of the ice and snow. So one day I woke up alone and came out to the kitchen, and I just thought, there has got to be more meaning and purpose to life than this. There's got to be more to life than waking up, fighting traffic, stressing out at work all day, fighting traffic, just to go home, eat, and go to sleep, and get up and do it all over again and again and again. Who here has ever felt this way? And then I started questioning my sanity. I thought, why can't I just go along with it like everybody else? But as I stood there, I knew, if life doesn't have more than this to offer, I'm out of here. But then I was saved by the bell. It was my family, calling to let me know that my sister had returned home from the war in the Gulf, and that they had set her up in a home out in the desert. I hung up the phone and called the airlines. I knew what I desperately needed was a break from it all, and the sunny desert of Southern California sounded perfect, and it was. As soon as I arrived in the desert, I fell in love with the purple, majestic mountains and the colorful palm trees swaying in the wind. I felt so at home. And my family and I were having the time of our lives, hiking all over the desert. And I was experiencing more joy and love and laughter than I had in a very long time. And what was meant to be a 2-week vacation turned into a 2-month stay. And my husband started calling to ask me if I was ever coming home. And I wasn't sure either. But then one morning, I woke up panic-stricken, knowing that I would have to return to purgatory someday. So I sat straight up in bed, I threw on my shoes and clothes and ran out the front door, and I just started running. I thought if I just keep running, I can run away from my fate. And I felt compelled to run towards the mountains as if they were calling me. And at the break of dawn, the mountains in the distance looked like shadows. And there were orange and red rays shooting up from behind them. And when I got to the base of the mountain, I just sprinted up to the top without even worrying about the pain in my legs or the burning in my lungs. And when I got to the top, I threw my arms up and I said, "Please help me. I am miserable in the extreme, but see no way out." And then suddenly, a total sense of calm washed over me. It felt as if the air around me was literally hugging me in a warm embrace. And then a voice from within me and resonating all around me simply said, "Can't you see you've come home? You will stay here and heal yourself and many others." And then I just stood there in awe. And as I looked out over the desert landscape, I fantasized about my life in the desert as a healer. And as I did, every ounce of fear and anxiety just melted away. And it was replaced by the enthusiasm and excitement that were welling up inside of me. And as I turned and ran down that mountain, there wasn't a shred of doubt about exactly what I needed to do. And in 2 weeks, I transformed my life from a corporate manager on the East Coast to a healer in the desert. I opened a wellness center, and for 12 years, I stayed in the desert and healed myself and many others, just like the voice on the mountaintop said I would. And 20 years later, I'm still a wellness professional and loving every minute of it. So, once again, instead of saying I am not, I started saying I am. So, let's take a look at that experience and see what it is meant to teach us. Because the lessons that I'm meant to learn in this lifetime are the same lessons that we're all meant to learn. We are sharing this reality as a collective whole. So, as we reflect on that life experience, we can see what the causes of it were. Instead of marrying for true love, I married well. I believe the American dream was my dream, and I was misaligned with my true calling and my true self. You can see from the get-go I was misguided by false intentions, right? Pursuit of the American dream, pursuit of success and status, misguided intentions. And that led to me being misaligned with my true self and my true calling. And the effects of that were total disharmony within my body and mind and spirit. When I was living back east, I had eczema all over my shins, and my hair was literally falling out in clumps. I was being rushed to the hospital with anxiety attacks. So my mind was in disrepair, and there was a void in my spirit. I had a feeling of emptiness and despair, and my life lacked meaning and purpose. What life lessons was I meant to learn from that whole experience? What life lessons can we all learn from it? When you are not aligned with your authentic self, you will experience resistance. It brings me back to the original story with the song leading and the track and field, getting rejected from the song leading team because it didn't align with my true nature and my true self. But when I found my own unique talents, I was able to pursue my true calling. Obviously, the corporate world wasn't for me because it wasn't working well. I never felt like I fit in, and I felt like I was being rejected and had a sense of emptiness. Once I was realigned with my true calling as a wellness professional, I had a sense of fulfillment and was successful. So if you're experiencing resistance in what you're doing, maybe you're not aligned with your true path. When you realign with your true nature and your true calling, you will experience harmony. What have I learned from this? Don't pretend to be somebody you're not just to fit into society's expectations of you. Live your own dream, not somebody else's. So then I can make a lesson plan. I will never pretend to be somebody that I am not. I will seek balance in my life by setting boundaries. I will schedule me time to get to know myself better. I will take time getting to know myself better so I can align with my true nature. And most importantly, I will create harmony in my life by following my heart. In my book, I guide you through a self-exploration by sharing my own personal experiences. Starting out with this experience in the desert, I take you through the twists and turns and ups and downs of my life, and as I do that, similar experiences of your own are triggered. And then I ask questions during a self-exploration. Questions that help you discover what experiences you need to explore and heal. you are prompted to uncover the causes and effects which lead right into the lessons that you're meant to learn. And then you can make a lesson plan that you can apply to your life today. And finally, in practical spirituality, you can perform daily practices that help you balance your ego and spirit, that help you unleash your creative potential. We come into this lifetime with baggage. And in those bags are the life lessons we have yet to learn. And until we master them, we're just going to keep carrying them around. I believe our souls are on an evolutionary journey, and that we evolved by mastering our life lessons. I believe that the meaning of life is to create experiences that incorporate these lessons as an aspect of the one great mind creating everything. We have tremendously powerful minds, and we are capable of creating anything we desire right here and now. But first, we have to overcome the objections of our skeptical ego who thinks we're not good enough to do that yet. And we have to heal the wounded ego who is still holding on to the past. That's why it is so important to reflect on the past, so that we can heal it and we can learn from it. So we can master our life lessons and transform our limiting beliefs into much more empowering ones that expand in love rather than contract in fear. Because when we do that, we move into a higher consciousness where there are no limitations, where anything is possible. In this higher state of awareness, we can rise up out of our egos and unleash our creative potential. We can activate our highest traits and unleash the potential we have to do, be, and have anything that we desire. In practical spirituality, I give you practices that help you balance your ego and spirit. When you feel the demands of your ego are causing you to want to control or judge others, or you find yourself going into victim mode, you can just tap your ego on the shoulder and say, "Excuse me, but my higher self will be driving this bus now. I respect you for the role that you play in my life, but my spirit is in charge now." And then you can move forward in a higher state of awareness and actively transform feelings of control, judgment, and blame into much more positive ones that express compassion, understanding, and forgiveness. I will show you how you can quickly redirect your thoughts so that you can avoid creating a negative situation. When you hear negative thoughts in your head, you can redirect them before they become words and actions. In a higher state of awareness, you can activate your highest traits and create positive experiences that will be much more conducive to your well-being and the well-being of others. You will learn how to use the power of pure intentions to create experiences that incorporate your life lessons. And when you start intentionally creating, you begin to direct your reality in a way that serves the highest purpose. You begin creating positive experiences that attract an abundance of health, wealth, and prosperity into your life. You see, I believe that the meaning of life is to create and the purpose is to evolve. It's what we're here to do. So instead of being blown around randomly by the experiences that arise, we can direct them. When we start to live our lives in this way, they take on a much deeper meaning and greater purpose. When we activate our highest traits, we can intentionally create more meaningful lives and consciously evolve towards more enlightened ones.